she made note of lots of things that are happening and seen lots of things in the news, and thought maybe it would be a good opportunity for us as a courtesy to come to the board and share, updates with what it is we've been working on since we were here last. So the updates that I'm going to go through with you tonight, I just want to let you know that I have shared these updates with the White Mountain National Forest, the Audubon Society, Society for Protection of New Hampshire Forests, David Gabatsky, AMC. There's a whole list of folks that I've already shared these updates with, just so that the board knows that we are trying to be as transparent as possible with all of our efforts with this project. So at the 420 hearing, if you recall, Commissioner Stewart was with us from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, and we talked about a memorandum of understanding that we had been working on with the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources for quite some time. Since our meeting on 420, we did finalize that memorandum of understanding with the DNCR. That was presented to the governor and governor's council on June 29th and was approved. That memorandum of understanding is a matter of public record now. I did bring some copies of that, so I have them here if anyone is interested. There might be extras there.
Okay. Do you want one? Thank you.
So without getting into any of the specific details to the agreement, and I think that we did talk about some of those during the conceptual meeting. And this board, I think, remembers well, with regards to the project that we had, that we brought before the board, that was at the summit, inside the summit circle.
Yep.
This agreement clarifies the railroad's rights inside that summit circle. There's, as part of that memorandum, there's a restated and amendment easement deed that clarifies the railroad's rights inside that summit circle. In exchange for clarifying those rights, the state, the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, has agreed to support us in this project, Lizzie Station. Let's see. We have contracted with the New Hampshire Natural Heritage Bureau to review the project area and all staging areas for rare species. We're working with Fish and Game. I think, as we shared, there's an ongoing study that Fish and Game has been doing on 2 known rare butterflies that exist at the summit. So we're working with them. The New Hampshire Audubon has done at least 2 studies in the past with regards to the American pipit, and earlier in the summer, a representative from the Audubon and another gentleman went up and have continued the study. We are engaged with studies on rare species, at the summit. We're awaiting some of those results. We have had Gardner Kellogg go up and survey the proposed project area and staging areas. We've taken elevations. How many distance we were doing data points every?
I think it's every 2 feet.
Yeah. So lots of elevations, lots of data points in the proposed location. We have been working with our engineers to lay out the through track. If you remember, the existing track comes up and all passengers will disembark at Lizzie Station, but then there will be a track that still continues on to the summit, but there will be 1 shuttle train stationed at Lizzie Station that will go back and forth from Lizzie's. lay that track out, the transfer, and the 2 side tracks. We spent a lot of time with the engineers thus far, designing platforms, and we're in the process of preparing the design as to how we're going to bring the effluent down the mountain, from Lizzie's, and also investigating at the same time whether or not we need to make any improvements to accommodate Lizzie's at the base station. Great idea from Wayne here. He's going to dig out and we might have shared this, but the historic Pullman water wheel, and we're working quite hard in trying to figure out how we can take that flow from the effluent that comes off the mountain to once again power that Pullman water wheel to generate electricity. Pelton, I said Pullman. Pelton, jeez. Pullman cars. Thank you. Pullman cars. Gotcha. Let's see. Recently we've been working with a fiber provider and the DNCR with regards to getting fiber to the summit. And as this board may recall, we were engaged at one point in time with Bretton Woods Telephone Company, and we're hoping to have a collaboration perhaps with Bretton Woods Telephone Company, New Hampshire Electric Co-op, and the state to get fiber to the summit. Let's see, we have received a letter from the White Mountain National Forest with several questions regarding Lizzie Station. And I think these questions have come from many of the interested groups that I mentioned in the beginning. Most of those questions pertain to the project footprint, the view shed, the rare and threatened plants and animals, construction activities, visitor use patterns, and concerns as to how we might operate overnight accommodations in a remote location. So I'm in pretty regular contact with the White Mountain National Forest. We are working on that response, and I'm sure that's something that will be made public at some point in time. If you remember, we're not only proposing the 1 shuttle train that runs from Lizzie's, but we're going to use the existing trail with significant improvements on the east side of the track. So if we're looking up mountain to the left, to make a new pathway there, or new and improved pathway there. So we're working with the state on that, and eventually that will need to go, because it's inside the summit circle, on our easement, will go before the Mount Washington Commission. We have been, I've had 3 meetings out at the University of New Hampshire College of Life Sciences and Agriculture with the dean and chair of the biology department, and we believe that they are going to be serving as our experts as we move through this process with regards to rare plants and species. I was out there yesterday for a better part of the day, not only meeting with the scientists, but meeting with the IT department, because the railway is investigating creating an app that all guests and passengers of the railway and others could download and use, that would teach them all things Mount Washington with regards to the alpine zone and rare species and flora, and hike safe and carry out. So again, there's a way for us to create a significant education and stewardship of the mountain by doing something like this. And we're also working to create potentially a summer internship program where students from either the graduate or doctorate school have interns with maybe one of the partners that are doing work on the mountain, and sponsored by the railway. So there's things going on and a lot of detail that's being worked out to bring this project forward. We anticipate if we can keep up the pace that hopefully by March we would have an application that would be presented to the board. It's something that we certainly are welcome and willing to work with Tara as we move forward. Was there anything else you wanted to add? Or?
Well, I just wanted to mention that we continue to move forward with setting up or restructuring the Cotton Railway into an ESOP. So it's going to become completely owned by all of the employees that work at the railway. So they're going to be participating in any of the benefits that accrue to the company from any of these new ventures that we were able to get off the ground. In fact, that's supposed to be set up and operational by the first of the new year.
So that's what we've been doing since we're here on April 20th. Any questions on anything that we have going on, or
any thoughts on the? I didn't catch if there was any thoughts on the timing.
Yes, we're hoping, Tara, to have an application together with everything that I just described and more by March. Sorry, Tom, I interrupted you.
I'm just curious on the Pelton water wheel. What capacity is that? What kind of generation can that do?
Geez, Tom, I really don't know what they were, but when I first bought the railroad, there was no commercial grid power out to the base, and all of the electrical facilities were powered by two Pelton water wheels, one that ran off two 4-inch penstocks that came off the Amnesic Brook and two off the Franklin Brook, and we still have those Pelton water wheels, and so the plan is to use the effluent coming down the hill to power those again.
So I just was thinking, we had just heard previously about the site evaluation committee and their role in and stuff. So that's why I was just curious what the generating capacity might be. You're probably below, although it's.
Yeah, like I say, I don't think we're talking about megawatts.
Yeah.
That's for sure. We're
I think 25
probably talking
megawatts.
about a couple of kilowatts maybe at the most. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Interesting idea.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions
Oh.
from the public?
Okay.
So if you're applying in March, when would you ideally start the construction?
Well, we wouldn't be.
I mean, I know it's a
March,
process.
That's for sure.
No, I understand that, but I mean, would you hope to be working on it in 23 or 24?
Yes.
Which?
Well, probably both.
Okay. And so the COAS, not the COAS, but the Mount Washington Commission master plan is calling for an environmental assessment, and it even has a clause that says if the assessment, which should take a few years, I think everybody agrees, finds that there are problems with the master plan will revisit and amend the parts that are problematic based on the findings of the ecological and climate assessment that hopefully will be done. If you do your construction before we have this assessment, and the assessment discovers that there's some real problems either on the summit or with your project, how do you undo those problems? In other words, wouldn't it be wiser, for the sake of the mountain, to wait until the full assessment or assessments are completed?
Well, first of all, the Mount Washington Commission has no jurisdiction over
They have
the
a
area that
jurisdiction
we're talking
over
about.
the 60 acres that will be completely impacted by this project, so they have that jurisdiction,
Yes, but their environmental assessment is only gonna be on that 60 acres.
which is not going to pass the straight face in the scientific community because impacts don't respect property lines. That's just reality. Air, water, animals, they all move across property lines. Impacts move across property lines. So you're just going to go ahead regardless of the fact that we are in utter ignorance right now of the condition of this fragile alpine summit that is actually being crowded off the summit by climate change, so that the area, the acreage that currently supports the alpine tundra and the species associated with that is shrinking every year due to climate change. They've already detected, I think it's a 10-foot rise in the tree line, and of course, as the tree line goes up, the alpine shrinks. So,
I'm not in a position to address that. I'm not a climatologist, and I don't have access to that data, so.
and you're not concerned about the possible impacts that.
Mr. Chairman, this is going to, we don't even have public comments here, all right? So I appreciate, you know, that the chairman allowed a couple of questions. Right, but, you know, we're getting way off.
This is not off topic, but if you
Well,
don't
I
want to hear it,
understand-
it should be on the record that the
I
public
understand
should
it's
not raise questions about environmental concerns.
You have your concerns, but we also have a meeting to run, and we're not gonna be here till midnight.
I wasn't planning to be here till midnight, but I
Well, I
think
have no
that
idea.
silencing the public.
I have no idea, James.
I was asking him questions.
Yes, you could do that till midnight.
It sounds like the public hearing will probably be sometime around April.
Okay.
And that would be an appropriate time for that.
All right, so we're gonna move forward with our next agenda then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Duval?